Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. I'm in tonight for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. No talking points memo, as we have to get right to the top story. And I'm talking devastating jobs numbers for President Obama and for the country. The unemployment rate remained at a whopping 8.2%, with only 80,000 jobs added, well under estimates from leading economists. Mitt Romney pounced on the news.
We have seen the jobs report this morning, and it is another kick in the gut to middle-class families. It's consistent with what I've heard as I've gone across the country and met with families in their homes, in cafes and restaurants, and in break rooms. American families are struggling.
But somehow President Obama put a positive spin on it, remaining optimistic about the economy and, by extension, his chances to be reelected.
We learned this morning that our businesses created 84,000 new jobs last month. And that overall means that businesses have created 4.4 million new jobs over the past 28 months, including 500,000 new manufacturing jobs. That's a step in the right direction.
Joining us now from New York, David Callahan. He's a senior fellow at Demos, which is a progressive organization, and Elaine Chao, the former labor secretary under President George W. Bush. Okay, David, I'm going to let you take a swing at this right off the bat, because when I saw these numbers come down, I thought to myself, wait a second, it wasn't too long ago when I believe it was Senator Obama complaining that George W. Bush thought 200 or 300,000 jobs added was a good number. This is 80,000 jobs. This cannot be spun as good news for Americans.
It's not good news for America. Let's recall, though, that Obama made that complaint before we suffered the biggest financial crisis in American history, after the Wall Street crash of 1929. We lost 9 million jobs as a result of that crisis. When Obama took office, we were hemorrhaging 700,000 jobs a month. Unemployment hit 10%. So in many ways, we've come a long way. We haven't lost any jobs in the last 2 years. We're making progress, clearly not enough progress. In retrospect, that stimulus was not nearly big enough in 2009. And that American Jobs Act that President Obama tried to pass last September should have been enacted by Congress, which did nothing. So we're now paying the price of that.
As far as I can tell, and Elaine, you can get in on this as well, as far as I can tell, the president blame shifts a lot. I mean, I really did not hear any evidence that the president is taking any responsibility for this economy. It's either Europe's fault, the banking industry's fault, Republicans' fault, or maybe Fox News' fault. But it's almost
and don't
never
forget the tsunami
his fault.
also.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Elaine.
So don't forget the tsunami, too.
Yeah, well, it's or a natural disaster or wildfires or global. I don't know what. But the point of the matter is people want a leader to take responsibility for the good and for the not so good. And I think this act is beginning to wear thin, in my opinion. Elaine.
I think, 3.5 years into his administration, I mean, it is now his economy. And yes, he may have inherited a bad economy. And even if he did, I think the key word is he made it worse. The unemployment rate is at 8.2%. The average unemployment rate from the years 2001 to 2008 was 5.2%. The number of people participating, working in our economy is at an all-time low. The labor participation rate is about 63.8%. Again, if you look back at 2001 to 2008, the average labor participation rate was about 67%. So with a workforce of about 155 million people, those 4 percentage points in terms of labor participation rate alone means that there are many, many Americans who have just grown discouraged. They've withdrawn from the workforce, and they're not looking. In fact, we have over 12.7 million Americans who are still out of work.
These numbers are dreadful, I believe, across the board, and there's very little positive news to glean from these. Nevertheless, a number of conservatives have come forward and are a bit concerned that in tone and in enthusiasm, we seem to be missing something in the Romney campaign. Did you think that when he came forward today for a brief appearance, that was enough, that was sufficient to kind of get people to stand with him for his positive solutions?
You know, Governor Romney has a history of creating jobs, and I think people understand that. And I think we've got to focus on that. I mean, he's a job creator. He has created jobs. He has had companies that have created jobs, and his record speaks for itself. And I think that's the point that's going to be very appealing. Now, all of us want the economy to improve. You know, we don't want our fellow Americans to be suffering, but clearly something is not working. This economy is stuck, and they're just, business people, employers are concerned about all sorts of things.
But Elaine, you seem a little bit more impassioned right now than Governor Romney did today. That's my point. Would you prefer to see him almost a little ticked off about these numbers? This is our country going down the tubes. Or is it enough just to say, look, I've heard from people, and this confirms what I've heard?
You know, politics is not theatrics. You know, we're talking about performance.
And part it is. Ronald Reagan thought it was. You and I both worked for President Reagan.
But
he understood
theatrics. We're talking about performance here, and clearly this president has not performed. And this come this November, the American people will decide.
Okay, so you're satisfied. There's nothing that you would critique about the Romney campaign so far.
Romney doesn't. Romney, look.
No, I think the governor. I think the governor can, has shown that he has lots of skills, and so whether he is. Whether he is going to be exceptionally emotional, that's just, I think, the way he is. And I think people are going to understand that. We're not into theatrics anymore.
Well, all right, that's actually an interesting response, and that might be a response I'd like to hear from the Romney campaign. It's not about theatrics. This is my record. This is what I'm going to do. That's interesting. Go ahead, David.
Unfortunately, Romney doesn't really have a plan for creating jobs, or one that will create jobs quickly. I mean, what
have
Romney's,
you been to his website, David? Yes, he does. He absolutely
in fact,
does
Laura,
have a plan to create jobs.
Actually, I read his jobs plan, and almost all the things that he proposes would not take effect anytime soon. What he wants to do is he wants to cut regulations. He wants to restructure the corporate tax code. He wants to change trade policy.
But that works.
But none of that is going to be a short-term solution. The short-term solution we need is more stimulus spending, and in particular,
more spending
to put those construction workers back at work. I read the jobs report today. The highest rate of unemployment is among construction workers, almost 13%. That's why we need this investment in infrastructure that President Obama has been touting.
I think there's a great deal of disagreement. I think, in fact, the stimulus was totally wrong-headed. It was the wrong move. And in fact, if anything, that has shown the lack of right policies to drive this economy. What this economy needs is for the government to stay out and for the government to create the environment through which the private sector can create more jobs, because we're in a terrible deficit right now.
David, I just don't think there's much appetite for more spending given where we are in this country today. I mean, we've been spending. We've been on a 45-year spending boom in America, and we owe China an enormous amount of money, and we're passing the next generation terrible debt.
Laura,
it's a nightmare for people today.
Laura,
go ahead.
The Congressional Budget Office found that the Obama stimulus created 3.3 million jobs.
How many jobs have we lost in that term as well? How many have we
also lost a lot of jobs, but the
that's
net,
a normal churn of the economy.
But the net effect has been positive. And look what China did. China had a massive stimulus after the crash of 2009. It came roaring out. It did a lot better than we did. Our stimulus was too small.
Well, they're doing a lot of other things, though, too, like cheating.
Europe had austerity. They've done very poorly. We have to do more stimulus. That's the bottom line here.
Spending or restraint? Spending or fixing our entitlement programs? We'll continue to have this debate for sure. Secretary Chao and Mr. Callahan, thank you very much. And directly ahead, is Mitt Romney's campaign sputtering before the home stretch? Well, we'll debate it. And later, a powerful teachers union in California blocks a law that would have made it easier for schools to fire abusive teachers. What is going on out there? We hope you stay tuned for those reports.